All right, folks. Well, we're going to go ahead and resume things, and we're going to give it another moment, and we'll get started with our sports technology panel. And so, just as a reminder, I'm just going to encourage you just to continue to share about your experiences on your social channel. You're getting a lot of great content here, and it's for free. And there are some places where you have to pay for this content. But Jeff and I wanted to provide a service to you as students, and also really as a favor to the industry, because by offering this for free, we're able to provide access to more students to get this very important information. And so, so as we broaden the volume of students and the types of students who are able to get access, we help to diversify the industry. We help to increase talent pools for the sports industry. So I just wanted to say, just let you know that you are getting a lot of value for free. So please continue to share your experiences across your social channels, hashtag Sports Industry Showcase. And we're going to have a very strong agenda tomorrow. As a reminder, Dan Evans, who's a former GM for the Los Angeles Dodgers, is going to be our featured speaker at 11 o'clock. But we're also going to have an Action in Olympic Sports panel. Also, we're going to have a panel focused on finding your own niche in sports. So how do you find your own niche? How do you carve out your own pathway in the sports based on your interests and your passions and based on your skill set? So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to conclude today by talking about position yourself for a winning career. So we're going to bring in some great folks who are going to share with you how to, develop your personal brand, how to network, and to do other important, take important steps so that you are in the best position for a great career in sports. So more to come on that. And another reminder, we will have a raffle at the end of the day. And so I'm going to raffle off some really good items. I got some cool prizes, and I'm so thankful to our in-kind donors. But just want to let you know, I'm saving some of the best stuff for tomorrow. And it's my incentive, I want you to come back tomorrow and to continue to getting great information. So if you don't mind carving out some time this Saturday, the information that you get is going to be well worth it if you're serious about getting into the sports industry. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and get our sports technology panel started. One of our panelists is coming in, so I'm going to give him just a moment to show up, make sure he's there. All right, so before I introduce the panelists, I just wanted to make something clear. And so sports technology, my definition of it was somewhat broader than maybe you'd find in some other places. And so it's folks who may have a technical function within sports to folks who may be working in other functions like human resources or marketing, but who are working in a technology space. And so it's somewhat broad. So you're not gonna have a bunch of gearheads up here, for those of you who are looking for that, but just some folks who can, by virtue of operating in the tech space and connecting to it in some capacity, they're going to be able to share their personal experiences and hopefully some information that's going to help you if you are really thinking about getting into the sports technology arena. So I'd like to start off by introducing Aaron Bice, Global Partnerships for Esports, Activision Blizzard. And Aaron, are you here? Just to make sure. Okay, looks like Aaron's not with us at the moment. That's okay. Lisa Jenkins, she's a Vice President of Accounts and Brand Experiences for CSM Sport and Entertainment. Welcome, Lisa. Matt Maxud, he's lead.
Hi, also Aaron is here. I don't know.
Hi, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hi, Aaron. Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for chiming in at some point. I love your background too, by the way. So, yeah, thanks for chiming in. Matt Maxu, who's a lead human resources business partner for EA or Electronic Arts. Michael Buckland, the Vice President of Digital Content for Fox Sports. So welcome, Matt, and welcome, Michael. Ryan Bishara, who's Executive Vice President of Revenue and Strategy for the Los Angeles Football Club, or LAFC. And then last but not least, Shelly Taniguchi, Senior Manager of Global Partnerships with Team Liquid. So thank you, panelists, and welcome, Ryan and Shelly. And I'm excited about what you're going to share.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so just wanted to have you start off by just giving a quick introduction of your job role, and also if you could share maybe just one key highlight from your career, and anyone can jump in and tackle that. Or I can go back to grade school and I'll call on people. All right, Matt, you're lit up, so Matt, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everybody. As Ron said, Matt Maxud currently work as our lead business partner in HR for Electronic Arts. I've been, working for them for a year. I spent some time at General Electric as well, working in HR though, as the space. I don't know. I don't peg myself as the, interesting facts about me, but I have, through the various career I had in HR, I've gotten a chance to travel a lot for work, working with GE, working with EA. I've been to a lot of different countries because of that. So that's one cool thing I've been able to do and use the platform, to see new places and to meet new people.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Lisa, how about you?
Hi, yeah, absolutely. Current role, right? That's the question. I work.
Quick highlight.
Got it. Yeah, I work for an agency, a sports and entertainment agency called CSM, and I'm on the accounts team within brand experiences, which means I work on the experiential marketing end of the marketing mix, helping brand create unforgettable moments and experiences for consumers to ultimately sell their product or service. Highlight from my career, at some point I was producing events in Beijing for a while, and I actually had to have a new road constructed in the outer rims of the seventh ring, and they named the road after me. So there is a road in Beijing named after me.
Very nice. It's gonna be hard to top that fact. All right, Ryan, how about you?
Hi, everyone. Ryan Bashara, been with LAFC for 5 years, and I manage our corporate partnerships team, ticket sales team, and business and data strategy team. Best highlight for me, outside of getting to open the club and the stadium from day one, probably was getting Sports Forbes 30 under 30 last year, and being able to say that, Patrick Mahomes is in my class. Pretty cool. So I'll take that.
Hey, congratulations on that, Ryan. All right, Aaron, how about you?
Hi guys, my name's Erin Weiss. I work for Activision Blizzard on the esports side, and I work in partner marketing, which is a fancy way of saying I work with sponsors. Technically, I work as part of the sales group that our team is mostly based in New York, but I'm one of a few that's based in our Irvine Blizzard headquarters. Fun fact, I guess, I've been at Blizzard 2.5 years now. I used to work with Michael at Fox Sports before that, and with Shelly on the WISE LA board. It's Women in Sports and Events. So if anybody's interested in joining that, it's a membership group that helps with networking in sports and events careers. So little plug for that. But little fun thing, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but at Blizzard, when you reach your 2 years, you get a Stein. So I'm excited. I finally got that. And at 5 years, you get a sword, and at 10 years, you get a shield, and you basically, over time, build your armor. So I've never been in a job that offers that, so it's fun.
Very cool. Thank you, Aaron. All right, Shelly, how about you?
Thanks, Aaron, for the plug on WISE. Yes, that's how I also know Aaron, through Women in Sports and Events. But hi, everyone. My name is Shelly Taniguchi. I am one of the lead global senior partnership managers at Team Liquid. And one of my biggest clients that I work with, or partners that I work with, is Dell Technologies and Alienware. So one of the coolest things that I've got to be a part of, one of the first things actually I started is we just launched our new Alienware training facility in the Utrecht, Netherlands. And so that's what's behind me here. That just opened up in September. So that's been pretty cool. And if you look at the videos online, like that is what it looks 100% like that in person. So it's pretty awesome, but great to be here. Thank you.
Very cool, Shelly. Great to have you. And I have to say, there's also something in the comments that I have to talk about. Someone put in here, one of our student ambassadors, Aaron kind of looks like AOC. Anyone else see that? Yes, I do see that, Layla. Aaron, I don't know if you get that at all. And I don't know how you feel about AOC, but I do see a little bit of a resemblance there. So
I've never gotten that. Maybe it's because I threw some red lipstick on today.
All right, last but not least, Michael.
Hey guys, Michael Buckland here from Fox Sports. I manage the digital content team at Fox Sports. So that's anywhere you consume Fox Sports content online, whether that's Fox Sports app or website or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, podcasting platforms. As for, I suppose, a fun fact, seeing, Ron, that you're a proud USC alum, I'm really proud that JT Daniels is the quarterback at the University of Georgia. We're very happy to have him. I think he won a few ball games last year. And we have a few gaming people here. Just gave me a fun memory in 2011 during ESPN days. We let people vote on who was going to be on the cover of Madden, and Peyton Hillis won. And I think that was one of the cool projects to be part of.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing, Michael. All right. So I'm going to toss out a few questions, and then students, feel free to answer your questions in the panel. We're going to make sure we get to some of them. And so definitely fill up the panel with what you want to ask our folks here. So panelists, the next few questions, I'm going to toss out, and feel free to pick and choose the ones that you feel most comfortable answering. So you've all shared your particular job functions, and which connect in some way to the technology space. But what are we missing here? Are there other roles, other functions within sports technology that you can share with the students?
I mean, I'm happy to jump in. When I got put on this panel, I started thinking about it, and I mean, technology has done some amazing things, whether it's on the broadcast side, which I'm sure Michael can speak all about. Fox Sports has been legendary in leading the way in some of the technologies and how you view and watch sports. Rules and regulations, if you think about being able to see when a tennis ball is in or out or in the line, or if someone's in the field of play or not. Safety has been really exciting to watch lately. Some of the things they're being able to implement for that to help keep athletes safe. But some of the most fun things I've experienced in my career is around athlete training. Just really cool, fun gadgets and tech and wearables and data that you can do to really improve someone. And when you think about it on the Olympic level, the difference between a gold medal and a no medal can be tenths of a second. And so just some of the tech that goes into that. So I think there's a lot of fun things in tech across sports.
Cool. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for teeing that up.
Yeah, I would say from my standpoint, it sounds like there's a lot of marketing folks on here. I support our marketing group, but I am not per se a marketer myself. I went to school for human resources from Michigan State University, got my master's in that. But I do work for an esports company, right? Or we make games that are sports focused. So I think if you think more broadly, right, there's a ton of roles where you can apply sports. I think there's sports technology in my role, based in the people I recruit, the people we bring into the organization, the way we structure our organization, putting the right people in the right places. So, like Lisa said, there is very real things, tangible things that point directly to sports technology. But I think even in my role, you can connect a lot of dots based on, being in a function like human resources, or, whether it's finance or marketing. I think there's a lot of things that you can, right, put a bucket in sports technology for. So it doesn't have to be such a daunting phrase, right? Like you don't have to be a software engineer or a data scientist in order to consider yourself in sports technology. There's a lot of ways that you can bucket that. So that's what I would relate it to.
Great. And I just want to build on that real quick too. And I'm glad you framed it the way you did, because this conference is all about helping students to find different intersections that come into sports too. So, there are all kinds of ways you can connect to sports. There's the traditional ways that we think of, got to work for a team, got to work for a league and whatnot. And there's so much more beyond that. So which is just a great example of just some of the different intersections that come into sports too. So anybody else want to tackle that question at all?
Yeah, I'll jump in with something on that too. A big piece that hits, I think, all of us is also media rights or platform partnerships now with streaming. So, from a tech standpoint, I think on the gaming side, a lot of times people immediately may think like, oh, a game engineer or a game designer, like that sort of side. But like Matt said, a lot of us are in marketing and partnership type of roles. And from a media rights perspective, it's for us on the gaming side for esports, we're looking at like Twitch and YouTube, and then who's that streaming partner even in China for our global partnerships. So, the equivalent in like China is Bilibili, and there are others there. But then we're also looking at TV deals. And all of that, is like, what is the broadcast streaming and the technology that allows you to put a show on and then allow that main show to go to all these different countries. But each of those countries needs their different set of ads or their different set of language, or cuts to breaks and things like that. And that is all a huge like technology piece just within broadcast. So there's that side. And then there's also platform partnerships that we look at from the game side. So for example, if you're familiar with viewing behaviors with incentives that you may get for viewing on Twitch, a lot of what happens there is you watch an event and then you're rewarded, say after an hour, you get so many coins, or in our case, tokens for the Overwatch game. We moved our broadcast off of Twitch and onto YouTube based on a bigger deal that happened with Blizzard. And so that's something now that we have to try and implement to keep the same viewers that were on Twitch and try and bring them over to YouTube and watch our events on YouTube. So that's a whole other tech partnership where it's working with the games, working with, Microsoft Xbox, working with Nintendo Switch, and Sony PlayStation to figure out, okay, if I'm somebody that's viewing, how do I make sure that I can get my tokens on the platform that I actually play the video game?
Very good stuff, Aaron. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. All right. Anybody else want to weigh in on that before we move on?
Yeah, I'll throw in there to Aaron's point about Twitch. I think the technology that we're seeing the most is technology that facilitates interactivity. It used to be that you just put a product out in the world and people responded to it and talked about it amongst their own. And now we can listen to fans immediately while we're producing things. And if you're on Twitch and you're playing for 8 hours, you can not just be playing, you can be talking to your audience. There's, technology out there. There's a lot of it. We use a company called Tagboard, but at any time during a broadcast, if a celebrity or a fan or an athlete or a coach tweets about what's happening on screen, we see it and we can put it on TV in under 60 seconds. You have a situation yesterday, like one of our prominent personalities named Colin Cowherd he was talking about Baker Mayfield and comparing him to Tom Brady, and Tom Brady responded to the segment.
Wow.
And we're able to take that and put that on TV and create another segment out of it to show Tom Brady or fans that we're listening. And I think that level of one-way communication is a thing of the past. And I think all these new platforms and technologies are going to allow for two-way communication during all live event broadcasts.
Great points, Michael. Thanks for sharing. And it's funny, I used to listen to The Herd, and for a while. And it's so funny too. And I'm sorry to throw this in you guys, but because obviously he and Baker Mayfield has a little bit of beef a while back. So it's funny now he's at a point where he's comparing him to Tom Brady. So yeah, that's interesting evolution. All right. So next, just wanted to ask you all just to weigh in on some of the skills and character qualities and traits that you think are necessary for success in sports technology, but also just sports in general. And Matt, I was thinking about you because obviously you're in the hiring business, or the HR business, hiring and talent management and so forth. So I definitely want to get your thoughts, but just asking folks to weigh in. What skills and what character qualities and traits do you think are necessary for success in sports technology and just maybe sports in general?
Yeah, so for me specifically, I come from a sports background. I played football at Michigan State, so I can relate to a lot of things, on the sports field and translate into the workforce, right? And I don't know how many of these, the 50 folks on here are currently in sports, but I would assume, most of them, right? So for me, that team aspect, no matter which organization you join, all the way across this board, the number one thing is how do you get the most effective team? Because we all know that there's not one organization where it's totally reliant on one single person. So for me, it's about how well do you work with others? How well do you work with a diverse group of others? How well do you work with being proactive, right, in solving problems? Because I think that if there's one thing we all learn, right, there's always going to be it's very easy to identify problems within business. That's the whole point, right? Like, ooh, here's an issue that we need to come up with. I think, whether it's in sports or athletics, problem solving, being proactive, and bringing a solution to the table rather than just pointing out what the problem is, I think is super key. So really digging into, how willing people are to be proactive for solution finding, how willing people are to be proactive in building relationships with people. And then obviously, right, from an HR perspective, there's such a big emphasis, rightly so, on diversity and inclusion these days. And I think that's a huge part moving forward, that you're going to see that it's not just, right, a couple seminars a year, but it's how do we use diversity and inclusion to get better results? How do we use the data for diversity and inclusion to problem solve issues bigger than we could before? So those are a couple key things that I would say that we look for in hiring. But I'm sure, right, that's not just specific to EA. All these organizations hire the exact same way. It's front of mind. I'm sure some of these folks on here are managers themselves. So I'd be interested to hear their perspective on how they look to hire people as well.
Yeah, Matt, thanks for that. And before I take another some input from the panelists, I just have to credit Shelly. Shelly's doing great audience engagement too. So Shelly, thank you for putting that question out for the students to attend. And I encourage you, feel free to use the chat to engage with the students. All right,
it was great to get from, like, I love hearing what everyone's interested in here on the panel. Trent into sports broadcasting, John's public media relations, Paloma, cinematographer, editor. Let's see, Nicholas, not sure, but certainly interested in areas where we're working with creating platforms that focuses within behind the scenes for athletes. That's great. Tamiko, pardon me if I'm not saying your name correctly, but sports medicine, creating content, hosting, production. These are all super great, because again, for us to be able to get you better insights, it's good to know what you guys are interested in. So in just some of the things that I've listed off from the audience, I would say some of the skill sets that you need, like for any of these roles, right, in terms of whether you're looking to create content in terms of broadcasting, going into marketing, right? In the sports industry, you also, one of the biggest key things is being super flexible, and like being able to jump in. And all of these roles, right, you don't work in a silo. All of our teams, Michael, Matt, Aaron, myself, right, even though we have different functions within our respective organizations, right, in order to create content for our partners, or in order to do a broadcasting segment where we're using shoutcasters or analysts, right, to bring a segment to life, right? You have to work within different teams within your organization. So your skill set, in order to build relationships and build trust and be able to communicate needs, and then also from your teammates understand what they're looking to do, that's going to be a super skill that will literally, they're not going to teach you that in college, right? You're gonna learn it and develop it in your projects and as you work with your friends and colleagues on different projects. But number one, I would say hands down, that's a super skill to have.
Great. Thank you, Shelly. Appreciate that input. All right. Who else wants to weigh in on that question?
I can jump in. So for us and my team, most definitively, the biggest trait that I look for in people, regardless of background, is actually or even sales, partnership marketing or business analytics. It's actually learning agility and communication. Whether you're in a technical role or you're in a client-facing role or somewhere in between, the ability for people to be proactive and quickly pick up new skills is really essential for us, because frankly, when you're in school, you're not necessarily learning the skill-specific components that you do on the job, unless you know exactly the specific role that you want to go into, and there's a class for it. Sometimes there isn't. And so really that learning agility and proactivity is really, really key. And then I can't understate the communication aspect, because you can be the best coder, programmer, technologist in the world, data scientist, you name it, but if I can't trust that person to go be able to communicate something that's very complicated in a very simple way to anyone on our executive team, then it's going to be very difficult to work with them. So overall, those are the things that, we focus on mostly.
Terrific, Ryan. Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to chime in on skills, character qualities that they think
Yeah,
are?
I'll jump in. One of the things I would say is I actually speak regularly with graduate students at the San Diego State Sports MBA program. And I find that so many of them are leaning in the directions of sports that they are a fan of, right? I'm a fan of basketball, so I want to work in basketball, or I'm a fan of surfing, so I want to work in surfing. But they haven't stopped to think about what that actually means. What is the business of those sports? And what do you actually want to do in your day to day? And how does that match up with your interest and your skill sets? You may find that what you're passionate about in a business sense and where your skill set lies doesn't exist in basketball. And you might actually be miserable even though you're a big Lakers fan. So I would really lean into what is the job? What is the business aspect of it? Because you might find that there, of course, is an area in sports for you, but it might not perfectly align up with your fan passion.
Great stuff. And I love what you're all sharing too, because I feel like in the process, you're helping to broaden the students' perspectives in a variety of ways. And that's what this conference is, one of the key things, the objectives of this conference is we want to expand thinking to, be able to open up doors of possibility that weren't there. And Shelley, going back to you, that flexibility, that super skill too. And, you have to be flexible and adaptable in a lot of different ways, and that includes your thinking. So very good. All right. So next I wanted to ask, and students, we're going to get to some of your questions, but I wanted to ask you all, if you could talk a little bit, and I feel like you touched on this somewhat, but if there are any particular trends that you see in the sports tech space that maybe we haven't covered so far, you think the students should be aware of, feel free to share that. So anything cutting edge, anything that's happening now that's cool, or anything that you foresee in the future that students should be aware of?
I can jump in with something, for Blizzard, this past year for 2020, all of, like so many things, our in-person events were all canceled. And the show still has to go on, right? So what we did, just as we're doing here, all of us virtually, we brought, our whole broadcast was run from people's homes. Casters and analysts were showing, doing a live show like this, all on virtual backgrounds, and they were sent, step and repeat banners to put behind them so it looked as professional as possible. And all of that has helped a lot of the technology almost like get us to jump into certain technologies faster than we were originally planning to. And maybe it was already in the works, but certain types of like cloud technologies that everyone can easily access, and doesn't necessarily require like servers at the office, but homes can tap into. But I'd say from like a show perspective, we've actually come up with virtual sets. So it actually looks like, it's a whole view of an actual desk. Maybe a little bit like what Shelley's background is, but rather than like Shelley sitting in front of it, she may actually be sitting at that white table behind her. And then there's actual, the casters are sitting next to each other, or the analysts are sitting next to each other. And even though they're at home, virtually, we've been able to plug them into this table and it looks like a real set. And so, they can turn and talk to each other and it looks like as if they're at that table. And it's been a really great way for viewers to even feel like, oh, this is a real show. This feels like I'm watching it on TV, you could say, right? And I think there's the other technologies that some of the traditional sports have brought in to make fans feel like they're part of the crowd. And there's the in-person ways of doing that with, actual cardboard cutouts and printed pictures, or there's the virtual stands and bringing people's faces into that. So I think that's something that has really changed the way we view and engage with sports, but still feels like normal, like how we used to be.
Hmm, very interesting stuff. Cool, cool. All right, anybody else want to address any particular trends that they foresee? Anything happening now?
I think Aaron's right. I think you're going to see a lot of jobs open up in the cloud production space. We certainly dove in pretty aggressively there. It's not just that it was required this past year due to the pandemic, shutting down a lot of studios and movie lots. It's actually significantly more economical, and it's a lot easier for talent and fans to participate in. You know, it used to be that, you know, if you want someone like Ron, your man Pete Carroll, there to show up at a studio and do something, he's got to drive 45 minutes. He's got to get there, do makeup, the whole works. Now you can hit a few buttons, and if we can improve the camera and audio equipment and on the laptop, you can also go live directly from the comforts of your home. So I think it's going to open up access to athletes. And of course, the second one, which is completely and utterly unrelated, but it's definitely going to result in some of the most jobs in sports, are going to be the emergence of sports gambling. And right now, I think we have a few states where it's legal at the local level, online, that is. And you guys probably can't go a single day without seeing a FanDuel or a DraftKings ad or a Penn Gaming or you name it. I don't think that's stopping anytime soon. The battlegrounds are so far only in 4 or 5 states. That's going to be in 50 states, or, you know, in the 40s in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Just to go on the heels of that too, and look, I know some of you work in this space directly, but esports, right? It seems natural to us folks who work in it, but you know, when I was in college, esports, you know, wasn't a proper thing. It didn't have competitive gaming, right? There's so much money behind esports now as well, from organizations, right, to marketing, to TV deals, you know. I even saw something on Kentucky University funded a whole entire esports facility within their university, like a rec center with computers set up everywhere. So I think that's huge as well on the heels of the sports gambling too. I mean, I think you can bet on, you can gamble on esports now, like simulations, people, you know, certain game was just wild, you know. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you know, trends of esports, right, in the production of that, in the gamification of that, and you know, the whole marketing of that is a huge key trend that we're looking to continue to further build out.
Yeah, I would add to what Matt and Aaron and Michael have all said, and seeing with there's a lot of you in the audience that are going into data analytics, right? Data is key. Every brand is looking for, how do we understand our fans and their behavior, right? And not doing it in a truly intrusive way, right? How do we understand behavior, and then how do we then create content, or make sure that how we're delivering the content is going to resonate with our fans. So for those of you who are going into data analytics, I think that is a growing trend in sports and esports, and just as an industry in general. And I just put this in the chat, but again, working with, because at Team Liquid, we have what we call our business intelligence group, that works on collecting any question that we have that we're looking to answer or understand for our partners, right? They have tools and work with companies like Zoom, right, to capture a lot of this data. And for the analysts who work with us, there's 3 parts of really telling that story, right? It's understanding what is the question that me as a partnerships person or our partner is trying to answer, right? So collecting data that really hits on that question. And then there's a lot of different stats, right, that's out there, from viewership to engagement to positive sentiment. There's a ton of stats, but then it's about interpreting those statistics and that data in a narrative, in a succinct way that then someone can understand it. So I see that being a huge trend and a huge need in industries beyond just sports.
Great stuff. And that's a great point too, Shelley, because, although this is a very much a sports themed conference, my hope is that for students who may decide, well, this is not going to be my first stop, I want to, get a career elsewhere, that what we're sharing here will be foundational no matter what industry you get into. So at this point, I wanted to take some questions from the students. And Shelley, thank you for answering questions there. And Aaron, I'll let you chime in as well. So students, any questions that you have for our panel? They've put out a lot of great stuff. And so feel free to pop the questions in the chat, or if you're going to take yourself off mic and ask your question audibly, feel free to do so. So any questions, anything specific that you want the panelists to address?
Who's the brave soul that's going to ask a question? And I challenge someone to come off mic and ask a question that, you know, there is no silly question, just so you know. Everything that you ask, I'm sure that your friends next to you on this Zoom would love the answer to. So be that brave person.
Shelly, you're such a kindred spirit, and that's what I want to say. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, looks like we have someone who's off, taking himself off mic and video.
Is that Mayan who's raised his hand? Nope.
I saw somebody else, but yeah, whoever wants to come in. Okay, she took herself back, so I guess he wasn't looking to ask.
Yeah,
yeah. Some
Mayan, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys all so much for taking the time out of your Friday. It really means a lot. And just as someone who's trying to build their skills, just trying to like make themselves stand out in this industry of trying to get their first job out of college, what are some, from your experiences, what are some like technologies, softwares, certifications, whatever it may be, that kind of helps candidates stand out for themselves, whether that be learning Python, SQL, whatever these technologies are, or if there's none, then what else could we do?
I have a follow-up question, Mayan, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. What is the industry that you're looking to? I mean, when you talk about Python, those are like, I don't know if they're coding. What are you specifically looking to get into?
You know, as of now, I think it'd be, you know, brands and properties, corporate sponsorships, but I'm really just looking to get my foot in and get in where I fit in. But the reason I say that is because a lot of those things, like you said, data's king, and they want to know how to be able to manage the data, move the data, and also tell a story with that. So I was just wondering if there's any key like technologies or softwares that you guys use on a day-to-day basis that maybe we should be learning now.
Okay, I'll take a stab at this, and then I would love to pass this on to my other co-panelists. But interesting question, but here's how I would answer it. I would say that first and foremost, I'd be like, I think you're asking great questions in terms of what software or platforms that you should be learning. But to be honest, software and technology is changing so quickly that it's hard for just to say, oh yes, you should take a look at Zoom and that's going to be like the best, right? I would honestly say two things. One, what is your story, right? What makes you unique? What are you excited about? Because there is only one Mayan Chavez, right? I would start there, and then I'd be looking at what are the brands that spark you, right? And I'd be doing research on, if I want to work for, like, say, Team Liquid, fantastic. Like, what's their values, what's their culture? Do as much research about the company and see where there's an interest. Like, if you're like, oh, I want to go into their business intelligence group, then see if you can get using LinkedIn, Twitch, any of your social networks, see who you have contact with and inquire and introduce yourself, your story, what you're looking for, and be specific, because people are going to respond to, I get hundreds of requests, right? But I'm going to look at, and I read all of them. But if someone says to me, hey, I am super interested in esports, my story is that I am looking into the data analyst sort of position. I don't know what is out there in terms of a career, but I love my passion for esports and I want to do this. Can you help me connect? Boom. I know so much about you in that introduction that I would take that call or that interview informally and just help you, to guide you, to introduce you to someone that is in that space. But so that's what I would say.
Good stuff. Thank you, Shelly. Who else wants to weigh in?
I would also just add to that, because I think those are super good points. You know, for me, mine, it's don't put too much pressure on yourself that you have to have all the answers. You're right in your first job. You need to understand there's a large part of your company, your manager it's their duty to provide training to you as well, right? It's not just I have to show up and I plug in like a computer and woo, here I go, like with no training at all, right? And Shelly touched on it, Ryan touched on it earlier, great points. It's about how you can adapt, how fast can you learn? How fast can you pick up? How fast can you team build relationships? That's what's going to get you the job. It's not going to be showing up with the resume that says, I know this, and this. So I would say for all of you, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, I need to know all this before I go in. I think you should all be curious about things, always continue to learn. And if you're interested in something, pick it up, Google search, right? The internet there's so much things on there for you to use as your free resources. But I would say just don't overthink it, right? Still be yourself. It was a great point from Shelly. There's only one of you. Tell that story first. And then show your ability to learn on the fly and how willing you are to jump in to things that you don't know. And I think that's how you'll best prepare yourself to get, whether it's your first job or your next job, is to remember those things.
Great stuff, Matt. Terrific.
Thank you, guys.
So let's look at this. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say just one thing too. I mean, and this for everybody, as you're going out and looking for jobs, I think a lot of times there's like the question of like, well, gosh, you're looking for somebody that already has sports experience. I haven't had a job yet. Look at internships, look at even like, if you're interested in sports, there are community 5Ks that happen that you can volunteer at. Even something like that is something that would give you the experience in sports, where you don't have to have an internship yet with the Fox and ESPNs of the world or big game companies. Obviously you're starting out, but there's that, right? You can have jobs that still have a connection to sports in some way. The other thing I would say is when you're thinking about what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, like if you want to be in analytics, like, are you really good at Excel? Do you love numbers all day, every day? I do not, but there's
Me neither.
there's like the measurement and analytics group that I can tap and be like, hey, so how did the promotion do when they posted the thing on Twitter? Tell me the numbers and what the engagement was. Okay, great. And then I put it into my PowerPoint. I'm a marketing and partnerships person, so I like the schmoozing with partners, and there's contract negotiations that like a salesperson does in our New York office. They do schmoozing and they do contracts and work with legal. And then once it's done, then I just kind of handle the day-to-day, and I do more of the creative stuff. Like, oh, you want to do a campaign in social, or you want to do a promotion, like then I come in and do that sort of thing. So just think about what your day-to-day role is when you're still kind of like, I don't know what place I want to be. I want to be in marketing or PR or analytics. Like really think about what your day-to-day would be. Because each of them are very specific. And in school, when you do a big presentation, you kind of are doing all of them. That's not what it's going to be like once you get into a role at a job, because every single department has their kind of swim lane, and you support each other in that way.
Thank you, Aaron. Such great stuff. And I have to say, of all the stuff that you said too, I did hone in on the volunteering. And like students need to remember that, volunteering is a great way to have an entree into opportunities in the industry. So let's take one last quick question. I'm gonna give our panelists a chance to kind of wrap things up with parting words of advice. So thank you, Shelly. Shelly's been very helpful to me. And so looks like Nicolette was next to a question. So Nicolette, did you want to ask your question? And Nicolette's one of our student ambassadors, by the way. So Nicolette, why don't you go ahead and ask your question and see if somebody can tackle that.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Ron, for hosting this, having me as student ambassador. Thank you to the panelists as well for taking the time, especially on a Friday afternoon. This one's very specific, but it's about esports in particular. That is personally a field that I don't have a lot of knowledge in, but I'm interested in learning more about it. And this is a specific example, but one of my grad school classes right now, we have to do a project on basically pitching, kind of like a partnerships pitching a deck. And one of my group members is an esports fanatic, and I want to learn more about that area. But my question really is, how does one learn more about a specific area in the sports industry? Just maybe whether if they want to get into a career or not, but just to learn about it, and specifically esports.
And let's get one person to tackle, in the interest of time, let's get one person to tackle that question.
All right, I found my way. Yeah, I found my way into esports from action and lifestyle sports. happened to be working for a brand that started to get interested in that. And, you know, it just, sometimes it happens organically where you just find people who know about it or are in the industry, or do informational interviews, or look at companies that are in the space. And just sometimes it grows organically how you start learning about it, and it's almost accidental. But I guess I would start by maybe setting up some informational interviews with people in the space, and really starting to follow the business news of esports, which is very different than the fan news, you know. So go to Google esports business and start looking at some of the trades and just seeing what resonates with you.
Great. Thank you very much, Lisa, for answering that question. And I also appreciate you talking about informational interviews. We just covered that a short while ago. So great. All right, so now I want to wrap up by asking our panelists just to share some parting words of advice. But I'm also going to toss in, I'd like for you to also think, you know, some of you who are interested in doing this, offering some inspiration. As I mentioned to our prior panel, or panel earlier in the morning, it's been a tough time for everybody. And our students have definitely been impacted. And so as part of this conference, you know, we want to inform the students, but we also want to inspire them. So any words of advice or any bits of inspiration that you can share with them that you think would be helpful is much appreciated. So anybody can chime in to get us started.
All right, I'm gonna start and make it short and sweet. But so I transitioned, right, from traditional sports into esports in the pandemic, like in the beginning of the pandemic. We're talking about in June of last year. So my encouragement to you, based on my own experience, my own story, it is possible to find roles that you're interested in this time. And so I leave that to you in that way. It is super possible. Find your story, find your voice, get connected, get clear, and put it out there. People will help you, just like Ron is today with this conference.
Thank you, Shelley.
I would second that. Similar story. I joined EA. I mean, if this is crazy, I've only worked in an EA office for like 8 days because then the pandemic happened. So I've actually worked more remote for EA than I ever have in the office. But, you know, second, the point of, and it goes back to the last person that asked the question, my advice for you is take that step, be proactive, reach out to people you're interested in getting to know more. The worst that can happen is they don't reply. And the best thing that could happen is it opens, you know, 100 doors that you wouldn't have had before that. So if you're interested in something, send them a LinkedIn message, send them an email, try to get in contact with them. But, you know, don't let, you know, the fear of no or a non-email back hold you back from taking that step, right? There's so many opportunities out there. You have to be willing to go get them because they're not just going to fall right at your door. So, you know, just like Shelley said, the opportunities are out there. What's your story? And go tell that story.
Very nice. Thank you, Matt. Anybody else want to leave some parting words of advice and inspiration for the students?
Yeah, I'll mention, oh, sorry, Lisa. Well, I'll jump in quick and then let you go. Something that somebody always told me was practice your like elevator pitch. Know exactly like how to introduce yourself, what you want, like Shelley was saying, and practice doing it in a mirror so that you see yourself smiling, you see yourself, and you get comfortable with what those words are that you're using. It's great in an interview. It's great when you've got a coffee set up with somebody. Nowadays with Zoom, you've got 30 minutes that somebody said yes to that LinkedIn message that you sent out. That's always been something that I found is useful, just practicing what is your pitch about yourself.
Good.
Yeah,
Terrific, Aaron. Anybody else want to?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I was just going to say, you don't have to get it perfect in your first job. I can remember coming out of school and thinking I needed to land in the place where I was going to be forever. But any journey you hear about in a career, it meanders and it takes unexpected turns and you end up somewhere you never even thought you would be. So just dive into something. You will learn something. It will lead you to somewhere. You'll meet someone. And trust me, it's not going to be what you do for the rest of your life. It'll be just the first step in a long journey of your career. So don't feel like you have to really nail it. Just jump into something that seems interesting and start learning.
Very good. Thank you, Lisa. Ryan and Michael, anything before we sign off?
Yeah, I can jump in. So for me, and something that definitely want to impart is my journey was the example of everything that was just said in terms of non-traditional, just hustle and like starting with no relationships whatsoever, reaching out for informational interviews from when I was a freshman in college, and using that opportunity to just learn from people, not reaching out, asking for a job or attaching a resume, but simply saying, researching a person individually, seeing what you might have in common or what was interesting about their background and role that you want to learn about to see if it's even something you want to do, which Shelly mentioned, which is really important. And then from there, taking the step of taking the knowledge you get, combining it with what you get with their internships as you start to have them over time, and then eventually things will come to you, as Lisa was saying. So in my case, right, I went as far as, and the persistence is really key that Matt mentioned, right? Like for me, I was set on working on the basketball operations side, right? I obviously don't right now, and I'm good not, because it turned out way better for me, honestly. But I reached out to Sam Presti, who's the GM of the Thunder, literally 8 times before I finally got a response, right? And did it once a week for 8 weeks until it finally worked. And it was just the fact that I was asking for time that got him to actually speak with me. We then ended up meeting in person. I actually drove him from his hotel to a Lakers game just because of the fact that I was that proactive, and all that just happened because of the initiative. What's interesting and unfortunately sad is that only about 1 to 2% of the people, even on this call, even despite everything we're saying, will actually do what we're saying because of just the pure fear. So just remember that, no matter what you do, the only thing that's stopping you is what's in your brain, because everyone on this call can do everything we just said. And if you just follow that formula, there will be a successful outcome as long as you are persistent and thoughtful in the way that you do it. So just know that everything that is stopping you is purely yourself, and you can fully do it. And we're all a testament to that. So it's all a fun journey, and it should be fun in the process of getting there as well. So look at it, everything is a glass half full rather than empty, because that's how you'll be able to stay positive and make it to the successful career that you want. Thanks.
Very good stuff, Ryan. And I'm trusting the students will take you up on your challenge. Okay, Michael, if you could close us out.
Yeah, to hammer Ryan's point home, and somewhat apropos to us all being here right now, is I got my first job in a very similar situation like this, and someone was speaking. He actually worked at EA Sports, Matt, and I was terrified to walk up to him afterwards and introduce myself. But I caught this little tidbit that he was from the same hometown as I was from, and it made it a little easier. So I got the courage and I went and introduced myself, and I asked him if I could have his contact information, and launched a career. So I'm proof that this works. Have the courage, walk up, say hello.
Very great. All right. Well, such wonderful information from our panelists. And, once again, you guys are getting all this value for free. All right. But keep it going. Our panelists are making themselves available today, and I'm sure that they're probably open to connecting on LinkedIn. So, for free, to be proactive, jump in and get that and take that start. So I want to thank you, Aaron and Shelly and Michael, Matt, Lisa, and Ryan for investing the time in helping our students and all the great information. I'm definitely looking forward to collaborating with you all in the future. So thank you again. Great job.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks,
Certainly.
everybody.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and to phase into our next break, but I wanted to do a couple things real quick before we go.